Question everything in pursuit of your purpose. Ask yourself.
Everybody out there, thank you for joining us again for another episode of Pursuit of Purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today we have with us a very special guest. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself.
Hi, I'm Drew Wallace, and I am the husband of my beautiful wife, Christy, and we've been married for 16 years, and I've got 4 kids, and Chase and Pierce and Drake and my little Hattie as well. We live in Lumberton, Texas, and I'm the director of physical therapy for 212 Therapy in Beaumont, and also a teacher and member at Calvary Baptist Church. And those are all real important things to me. I'm a coach, dad, husband, all those things. So
I like the way you answered the question with the husband going first. Like you put that right on top of the cake there. Didn't even talk about the cake. We're just going to be right on top of it first.
Right. Yeah.
Well done.
Give the wife her proper due.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Christy, that's right.
16 years, too. You actually took away one of our questions. Typically, we'll work through and then we'll ask you what year you were married. We've learned through these interviews not to ask a man how long you've been married. We ask what year you got married. What year were you married?
2008.
See, well, we know you know that. If you automatically knew. He's been watching our episodes.
Yes,
I did a little prep.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
That's all good.
What is 212? Tell me about that. What is that?
So 212 is a pediatric physical therapy clinic, and we do home health and also in clinic treatments. So we're basically taking care of kids from birth all the way to 21 years old, and treating pretty much anything that falls in the category of needing physical therapy. So I get little ones, couple months old sometimes, and we'll be working with them usually on issues with torticollis, which is a issue with the neck, and where they usually sometimes have trauma during the birth process, and they'll come out and their head will be kind of twisted, and it won't naturally just undo itself, and it'll usually remain for a couple months, and the pediatricians will notice it on one of their follow-ups, and they'll refer to come see us, and so we'll do the evaluation and help the parents mostly to learn how to help their child be able to improve upon this, so they don't end up as an adult with a torticollis issue, which creates problems with driving, trying to do interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine.
And but that's just kind of the younger ones. The typical population is developmental delays, just children who are behind in their physical milestones, and we're just trying to catch them up if they're not sitting independently at the right time frame that they should be for their age. Then we'll help them work on core strength. If they're not at the point where they're crawling and mobile when they need to be, we'll work on that. And if they're not usually walking by around 14 to 16 months or so, then we usually help them learn how to walk. And sometimes we find out there's other things that are going on besides just physical deficits. There may be neurological deficits, etc. And we got to work through some of those. Children with autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome.
Okay, that's amazing.
So
it is.
But then the ones that I probably just naturally enjoy the most of the sports population. So the ones that are coming for sports injuries and are just simply trying to work on getting back on the field. Yeah. And to all my patients that are out there, I love all y'all. But for my sports ones, you guys know we enjoy going outside and just having a good time doing sprints together and lunges together and all that, and just trying to get them back on the field. And that's the goal.
Okay.
So,
well, for somebody who's involved with sports like you are, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but I'm sure you have a childhood connected with sports.
Oh, yeah.
Probably a lot of participation yourself. It's going to be hard to get away from that passion. That's just part of who you are.
Absolutely.
So how did you get involved in that? Like, how did that come to be?
So 212 Therapy as the director, well, that was mostly a result of the fallouts from COVID is really the answer. So my previous employer, I was there for almost a decade. And due to COVID, we took some different hits from having to deal with financial changes and some benefits changes, which obviously caused me to look at my future and to see what needed to be happening. And so I began to put out resumes and just look at what do I need to do to help continue to take care of my family the way that I wanted to. And actually, everything that I attempted to go check out were some really good opportunities out there. And God pretty much closed the door on every single one of them. And I think he just said, nope, that's not what I want you to do. And I was like, but that's a really neat opportunity.
Yeah.
And one of them was an institute in Dallas that's, I guess, more or less owned by Michael Johnson, the sprinter from a few years back, the Olympic sprinter. And all they did was work with athletes, Olympians, pros, and all that, and try to get them back on the field. I'm thinking, man, this is great. And but they just weren't in the business of hiring at the time because it was COVID. And so they had a position up there, but as I got the call back, they're like, no, we just can't hire right now. And so I ran into several different things, and even an opportunity that was possibly going to bring us back to Houston, where my wife and I originally started when we came down here. And that one was going pretty good for a while. And then God said, no, we're going to close the door there. And so I had pretty much gone, all right, we're just going to keep doing what we're going to do. We're going to downsize a little bit and just figure things out. And then I got a message from the human resources director at 212 Therapy that said, hey, we need a director. We think you might fit. And I was like, all right, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be definitely one of the best decisions I've made in the last few years, because it's allowed for me to have the flexibility to take care of my family as well as do something that I enjoy. And also get to work with the athletes and the kids that I enjoy working with every day as well. So it's been great.
That's amazing.
It is.
So what's it like to be the director? I mean, that's kind of, you're responsible for the whole place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the physical therapy aspect, so we have 3 disciplines. We do speech and occupational therapy and physical therapy.
Okay.
So we're trying to take care of that. A lot of the times the children will come in with delays. The pediatricians will say, there's a lot going on here, and so let's just go ahead and let's send them to all 3, let them evaluate them and see what's going on. And sometimes they qualify for one and they don't qualify for the other 2, and just whatever the needs are, they'll send them over to us on a referral. And then as the director, I've got to kind of facilitate where the evaluations need to go. I've got a staff of therapists and also physical therapist assistants that I kind of get to just distribute patients to. And we've got some that are really strong in certain areas and some that are not as strong in other areas. And so I try to feed what they're best with as far as the patients and the caseloads, and try to keep everybody with a caseload they can handle, as well as taking on a few challenging ones maybe they're not ready for, just to kind of keep things interesting, more or less. But yeah, as a director, my job is to keep trying to facilitate and make the staff that I currently have flow. And then the other challenge that I'm currently dealing with is grow, and that takes hiring and finding talent. And as you guys have probably dealt with in the past, that is a challenge sometimes. And finding has been the biggest challenge for me, of trying to find other therapists. If you're out there, I need you.
Shameless plug. Yes.
No, we were going to let you do that anyway,
Yeah,
so I'm glad you did
absolutely.
it. So you strike me as a kind of hands-on kind of guy.
Yes.
You strike me as the kind of person that likes to actually be doing, what it takes to help people.
Yes.
You don't seem to me like the kind of leader that sits in the office and points his finger.
No.
You seem to me like you would really like to be in there with the patients, with
Yes.
the people, and helping them.
Yes. Yes.
Not just helping your staff and directing them, but actually in the trenches,
Yes.
doing the stuff.
Yes.
So how does that balance? Like, how do you maintain that life at work
Mm-hmm.
and still direct everyone?
Well, that is where the challenge can come in. So I've tried to book my schedule accordingly. So we usually see our patients for close to about 40 minutes in the physical therapy department. So I'm trying to book the patients on the hour, see them for about that 40-minute time frame. And that gives me about 20 minutes to roughly work on trying to basically get notes in, and also try to go ahead and figure out what I need to address as far as texts, emails, etc., from any of my staff or any of the executives that may be anywhere. So I'm trying to give myself a little bit of a 20-minute window. So hopefully by the end of the day, I can address everything I need to. And then, as you know, sometimes as a director, or an executive, your lunch just goes out the window because you got to take on whatever you got to take on, and that's just what happens sometimes.
Right.
But I see a full caseload as well, so I don't know. I don't know a point where I'm just going to not see patients and only distribute. But I've learned that I need to not be way too involved with patients, and that allows me to grow more. If that makes sense.
No, it makes
I
total
need to
sense.
distribute.
This is part of what we do.
Well, other than obviously having worked in other clinical settings, and so you've been under directorships, is this your first go at that level of director, or have you been in a similar situation before?
Yeah, so as a director, this is the first time I've been a director over multiple and the head of the entire department. I've been a supervisor over a clinic before where I was just in charge of my own specific clinic, making sure that everything happened there.
Yeah.
And as far as trying to learn to be less locked in on patient care and more distributing, that has been more of a challenge. But the current setting allows for both of that, but definitely need to grow it is the answer.
What you're learning is the balance of boundaries of leadership. And that's beautiful. That
the word compartmentalized came to mind when you're talking about the blocks of time and what to do in those times. It almost sounds like you're once you arrive at the clinic, it doesn't stop until you leave. I mean,
it's go time.
That's interesting. So back to some of the therapies here. You're talking about some of the folks you guys treat. Do you find in your industry that there are a reasonable set of standard operating responses, or do you find you kind of have to be more creative?
As far as treatment and everything. So as far as treatment goes, that is the beauty of what we do in physical therapy is ultimately there's a science and an art to everything that we do. There's tons of research. When I was in school getting my doctorate in physical therapy, they always talked about evidence-based practice. What you do needs to have evidence that supports it. There needs to be research behind it and everything. And then you get into practice and you have all these evidence articles and you realize that like that is great and that is best practice, but I can't get this person to do what I need them to do that I know is happening over here. And how do I do that? Well, that's the art, is how do I get this human to do this research-based exercise that should work, but it may not. And in reality, it's just part of what we do. And we are working with humans, not machines. You can put a machine through exactly what it needs to do, and it should, even though mechanics would say, hey, not always. But when you're dealing with humans, we've got to be able to deal with emotions. And
the psychological and emotional factor.
Aspect.
And I heard you say, you go pretty young. You got some littles in there. And they're not even anywhere close to reasoning.
No,
if you get a schooler kid, you could say, I know it's going to hurt for a little bit, but we're going to have to do this.
No, absolutely.
When they're maybe closer to the double digits or whatever. With those babies, we just have to do it.
Yes. It's absolutely a challenge. So I had a child that's just simply having challenge with torticollis, and I was seeing him yesterday. And anytime that I tried to get her to move that head the direction I needed to, like her response is pain, no. And after a while, it's screaming pain and no. And even though I'm trying to be as gentle as I can, I like to do what's called active assisted motion, which is they're moving it and I'm just assisting it. I'm not actually pushing it. I'm just assisting with a little more. And sometimes when they just feel any kind of pain, it's an immediate stop. But for a baby, that's just a reflex. Pain, no, go away.
Right.
So that's part of it.
Sure.
Well, I'm super curious. What led you into this path? Like, tell us about well, let's go back a little further even than that. What was childhood like? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Chicago. So the first 13 years of my life were in Chicago.
That explains the lack of the y'all and our drawl we have.
I have to actively use y'all still. Now, I've been in Texas a while now.
Yeah, we still love you. It's not, we got no.
No, my in-laws used to make fun of me all the time because I definitely did not say y'all, and sometimes I would straight say you guys. And guys has mostly gone away. It's mostly gone away. But I know my mother-in-law will catch me every once in a while, and I'll be like, "Yeah, it's still there." But that was my first 13 years. Was in the Chicago area in a town called Bolingbrook. That's where I grew up, and I was there all the way until the end of the first semester of my freshman year in high school, which is a pretty
Wow.
challenging time to just pick up and move and take your roots
No
somewhere
joke.
else.
Right.
But it was definitely a big challenge, no doubt about it. And my parents knew it, and they tried to counsel me through it. They're both believers, Christians. They raised me very well to know the Lord and to go through and counsel everything. And they knew the realities of taking a 14-year-old straight out of all of his friends and out of his high school and
Yeah.
try to drop him in the middle of another one that was much smaller. I was in a 6A high school at the time in Chicago, and we came down to what was a 3A in Marshfield, Missouri, which is near Springfield, Missouri, southwest area,
Okay.
into a school pretty in town, similar to about like Lumberton, and massive change. And
That's more of an agricultural area too, isn't it?
well, I really can't give you the whole aspects of Springfield and everything, because I only spent a few years in that area, and
Okay.
then I went to college up in Northeast Missouri, and then I came back down for graduate school in that area as well. But I mostly was in school and sports is what I did when I was in Missouri. So, but yeah, I graduated from Marshfield High School in Missouri, and it was a big transition coming down there, but took a little while to make some friends and get things going. And I was a pretty decent athlete as well. So when you come in as an athlete, then
Gives you a little bit of an advantage.
somewhat, but it also gives you the, hey, you're going to take my spot, and that creates challenges as well.
Right.
So you learned how to play sports and fight.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It probably took until about my junior year or so before I started to really have some good friendships, and it was a challenge overall.
Okay.
And but that was high school. And
Mhm.
college, I went to play baseball, and
Okay.
so I was pretty good at baseball. So I went to Culver Stockton College and played there, and that's where I fell into a sports medicine undergraduate degree in athletic training, and that's what
Okay.
I really, really enjoy. But I learned quickly that the end road for that
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't going to line up with the real goal in my life, which was to get married, have children, raise a family. And when the team's out there, that's when you're out there. And usually most games are in the evenings.
Mhm.
And
Family time.
I looked at the professional world, and most games are on the road. I looked
Right.
at the commitments for the Houston Astros and all them, and you're on the road 2/3 of the year,
Yeah.
basically. And I'm just like, that's fun, and that would be great. I loved my athletic training undergraduate degree, because if I wasn't playing baseball in the spring, I was traveling with the football team in the fall, and I was just riding the bus with them, having a good time, staying at the hotels with them, having a good time, wearing all the college gear and on the sidelines. And somebody went down, boom, I'm on the field, I'm ready to go, and that's fun. I enjoy that, but I knew it wouldn't work out for my family, and that's why I pursued getting a doctorate in physical therapy, so I could be in a little bit better hours.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, we hadn't got this far yet, but I'm going to make an assumption that there was pretty good discipline in your home,
Yes.
because you have an enormous amount of forethought and discipline in your thinking, in your personal attitude towards life. Very few high school, college age men could think that far ahead and plan that much, with that much commitment and discipline to their future life,
Gotcha.
to say, this is fun, but
Right.
this doesn't fit with my long range
Yeah.
self, the vision of myself that I have.
Mhm.
So that's pretty impressive in my mind. And I would bet that that's a testament to your parents.
Yeah, my dad, absolutely. And of course my mom as well, because she'll probably watch this eventually too. But anyways, my dad was very much driven in looking at how things need to be done and doing it the right way. And that's a lot of the characteristics that definitely came over. And obviously like to take hopefully what is the best of your parents and hopefully carve that into the best and better of you, hopefully as well. And my dad is very driven. So he had a lot more challenging upbringing than I did, and in downtown Chicago, and he's got a different character than I do, and how he does things because of how Chicago basically formed him. But I love him all the more for the drive that he instilled in me, for sure. So,
do you have siblings?
Yes, I have a older brother and a younger sister.
The middle child.
I'm the middle guy, so I got to watch the older one make mistakes and try to hopefully let the young one figure it out from both of us. But she had to do her own thing as well. So everybody.
So I've been around a lot of families with 3 or more kids where they would have a middle child, much like yourself. Would you categorize yourself as the house jester, the one that is responsible for making everyone laugh and entertain people?
I don't know that that's really me.
Okay.
I don't know. I do like comedy, as you guys can see. I like to laugh, and I enjoy that. But I don't know that I'm like the school clown kind of guy or always looking for the joke, but I enjoy keeping things light, though, that's for sure, as much as possible.
There's an amazing dynamic at play in your life, and you, I don't know, you haven't specifically spoken to it, but so y'all moved several times, and you're the middle child. All of these things lend themselves to you being a very social person, being very adaptable to just about any social situation, which then lends itself to you becoming a leader.
Okay.
It's pretty fascinating when you look at your history and you talk about that. A lot of people think that if they moved a lot as a child, like I moved a lot as a child, not really far, but a lot of different school districts and things, they think that gives them a disconnect. They think that it puts them at a disadvantage because they weren't able to put down roots or whatever. But the fascinating thing that's done for you, it's an opportunity that you got that other people didn't get to learn how to adapt by necessity to new and unfamiliar social circumstances.
Yeah, maybe even be patient, wait for things to evolve, instead of just, moving to your Springfield, community, and knowing things weren't going to be instant. It's going to take some time and those sorts of things. And so, I don't know. That's definitely an attribute, which is probably, as Rob is implying, it's why you're in a leadership role today.
Gotcha.
And to take it a step further, it also lended itself to the dynamics of thought that you used to plan your life, because you became, I don't want to say self-reliant necessarily, but that's more or less the concept that you learned early on, is that you were the main person you could and would depend on. And if it was to be, it would be up to me.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that helped you develop that sense of discipline about yourself. That's impressive.
Okay.
I like that. You used it all for you. Nothing was done to you.
Okay.
That's good.
I got you. Now, the adaptability I definitely agree with, because I've been able to move and change and adapt to whatever's coming at us, for sure, and always know that, like, I'm not just going to do nothing. We're going to find something to do, and in all of it, hopefully find whatever it is that God needs for me to do wherever I'm at as well. So,
you find that applies well in your industry? I presume it's always in a research-based industry, so they're always coming up with different ideas and equipment and procedures and things. And I'm sure you guys are very heavy into the whole continuing education, re-credentialing thing a lot.
Yes. We have to have a certain amount of continuing education units every couple of years, and we got to retake our basically combined jurisprudence and ethics exam that we have to take in order to keep our licensure. But but yeah, it's a constant thing. The last time I got it renewed, I just hit heavy on pediatrics, because obviously that's what I'm in right now, and just tried to take on some of the things I'm a little more weak in pediatrics, to try to help keep up with not just myself, but hopefully answering questions that my staff may have about things and how to address it. So.
Right.
So you mentioned that you've been married 16 years. You were, memory-wise, you did some very impressive study on your way up here, or maybe you just know that all the time. But I'm going to say that you're impressive, because, if you ask me, I'm like, and then
throw out a year. Throw out a year and subtract.
Right.
There was that's good that you keep up with that. It's awesome.
I bring that up to ask the question: how'd you meet your wife?
Well, that is probably the best part of my story, ultimately. And
I'm glad I got to ask you.
That is that is the ultimate testament to God doing what He wants to do in lives. So, so we met at a camp in Arkansas, and it was just it's called Shepherd of the Ozarks. It was a camp in Northwest Arkansas, and my sister actually talked my parents into going one year when I was in college, and she had gone to a youth camp that was there, and it was real pretty camps. She's like, hey, let's go back during their family camp week, where they bring in families and more or less just try to get them away from all of life's distractions and just let them get in nature and just enjoy fishing in the creek or walking around.
That's really neat. I didn't know that was a thing.
It's a nice place. It's a very nice place.
I've heard of that camp. It's really good.
Yes, it's
my sister went to college in Arkansas, so camps like that come up a lot.
Yes. Well, it's a great one. I actually got to work there as an intern eventually as well, and. But basically, the first year we went, and her uncle, my wife's uncle, happened to be the minister for the whole week. So you spend all day kind of just enjoying the camp, and then in the evening, everybody comes and meets in the tabernacle or whatever we want to call it, and we all do worship and a message that week. And me and my parents extremely enjoyed listening to him, and then I got to meet his sons, my wife's cousins, and there were they have 4 boys, and I got to know them very well. And that friendship that I formed with them is probably a lot of the reason that I'm where I'm at right now, is because the next year we were talking about whether we wanted to go back or not. And I said, yeah, I enjoyed hanging out with those guys. And we went fishing and swimming all week. And I think I want to go do that again. And I could have just spent the whole summer working at a golf course job that I had in my high school town. And I thought it was a great job. And it paid for all the gas I needed to. And it was good to go. But I was like, no, I'll go with you guys. And when we went back, they brought their cousin, who ended up being my wife that year, and she was just kind of a part of our group, and obviously some of the flirting began and all that. And I think probably the most thing that attracted me to her was the fact that she wasn't really impressed with any of my athleticism or anything. I get a little confused by that. I'm like, hey, what's going on?
It just works on everyone else.
So
I got skills. I got talent. You don't see me.
This guy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's great.
So that's kind of how things worked. And
so I take it you made the first move.
I don't really know exactly. I do remember the first night.
I'll bet she knows.
She may. I don't know.
They know.
I know that I glanced down and I looked down an aisle, and I remember making eye contact with her, going, "I don't remember her from last year," and just being like, "Oh, I'll have to talk to her at some point." So, but that's how we met, and really, in between that and the next year, I worked as an intern there, and I was dealing with some challenges, and a lot of my Sunday school class knows about this, of what I needed to be doing in my life exactly. And I feel like, to just be straight, I felt like the devil had his last little go at me there, of like, I'm going to try to pull him down this road, and this is the road that he should be going down, and I'm going to try to pull him down a different road. And I made a full surrender to the Lord and His plan at that camp that summer. So I worked the high ropes course. The high ropes course, just facilitating all the different zip lines and everything. And you would get up into what's called the Eagle's Nest, which is the peak right before you get on the zip line after you finish the course. And every day I was up there, every day. And it became a ritual for me just to go all the way up there, and then basically spend some time in prayer before I began working through anybody. And just kind of as a finish, I would hold on to the pole, latch up everything, and then just jump off and let everything go and say, God, you got this. And obviously a lot of rush to be jumping backwards and just watching the sky fall until the thing catches you. But it was just kind of a metaphorical thing for me, of like, I'm letting go of things. I'm going to let you do your thing in my life, and I'm not going to pursue the things that I was. I'm going to be pursuing what you need to be pursuing here. Wow. And it became more and more clear that my wife, Christy, was who I needed to be pursuing. And just to kind of relate it, I call it my Bethel, basically, where I set up my rock and my altar to God about the move that He made in my life. And for a long time, we had a rock at each one of our houses from that camp that we brought with us. And it didn't make us with us on the last couple of houses. So I'm like, where did that rock go? But
Maybe you need to go back to the camp.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to go get another one. And we've made a few trips back.
Right.
I think 3 of my children have all been back. I'm trying to remember if my youngest daughter has been or not yet. I want to say yes. So my wife's probably going, yes, but I don't know.
What an amazing experience. Though.
Yes.
That's awesome.
A surrender moment, to say there's the only way for me to know the way to go is just to surrender to whatever I think I should. Like, nope, I'm just going to let that go. Literally, and I love that. That's amazing. That's a powerful way to embrace the next transformation. And as you can see, it took off from there.
Yes,
God's like, oh, you're going to give me that? I will take it. I will take that life and do something with it. That's awesome.
So you referred to your childhood like you moved when you were 13 or what have you, your first time. When you were young, living up in Chicago area, do you remember what you wanted to do, what you wanted to be as a kid?
Baseball player was my main thing. I was very good at baseball. Very good at baseball. And my dad helped me grow into the player that I became. I mean, we were at the cages all the time. There wasn't a game that didn't happen that he wasn't like, Drew, we're going to cages because you hit better if we go to cages before the game. And it was like we were going to the cages. And so my dad invested a lot. He coached me pretty much my whole childhood that I can remember. And all the little team pictures of my dad on the side and me in the middle somewhere. So baseball was really what I wanted to do. And when I was in high school, I did very well. I was salutatorian and did very well with grades and all that, and knew different things that I could do. But I was really good at baseball, so I was like, "We're gonna go the baseball route." And then I just happened to be put into an intro to athletic training course in college, and I was like, "Wow, I think this is really where I want to at least start." And that's kind of how it all formed.
So I have 2 questions. So did you come from an athletic family, or were you just one of those standout?
No, I mean, my dad played baseball and football. And I think a lot of what drove him, and I'm pretty sure he'd attest to it, was the fact that he felt that he was gifted and had a lot of speed. And he would always tell me I would have smoked you if I didn't hit this motorcycle wreck. So he had a pretty bad motorcycle wreck. And that caused a lot of different injuries to his legs and all that. And really, I think it was probably by the age of 10 that he was no longer even able to race me anymore. But I became a very fast individual as well. But in the end, I think he always felt like he didn't get the coaching that he should have gotten to be able to become what he could have become. And obviously we'll never know in the end about athletics, but he felt like he learned later how to play the game of football and learned later how to play the game of baseball when it was all done, basically. And so I remember him looking at those little VHSs of instructional videos from all different places, and he'd watch them, and he'd have me watch them with him, and he'd be like, "This is the drill we're going to work on today." And he always wanted to prep for the next practice and have like, "This is the new drill, we're going to improve on this skill." And so he tried to become the best coach he could be. I think in response to the fact that he didn't feel like he got the opportunities maybe that he should have. So I think that's kind of how that all happened.
Yeah. You said you had 2 questions.
Yeah, the follow-up question was what has to do with sports. We're all kind of athletes here. We've all had our version of it. And it is such learning opportunities. That's why I'm glad both you guys are encouraging your kids like I did mine. Even though my kids weren't overly athletic people, I knew what they would get from it if they would just get in there and participate. So what life lessons did you draw from being able to extend your playing career into college and some of those things that you still can apply today?
Yes. Well, I mean, I played football, basketball, and baseball pretty much most of all of high school. And then I played college baseball, and I was year round all the way through pretty much senior year. And the team aspects of things are just absolutely important, being driven. And that absolutely carried over into the workplace as far as I get up every day to do what I need to do. And if you don't show up, you get knocked out in football. That's pretty simple as that. And this year I had to do a lot of that with some of my players. As simple as like, hey, if you don't go full, that guy across from you will.
Yes.
And so one person gets hurt. So if you both go, then it's a nice fight and somebody eventually wins. But usually somebody's not going to get hurt unless something obviously happens and injuries happen.
Right.
But like if you don't go, you are real likely to get hurt because you're not giving it all. And that has definitely carried over into the workplace as far as like, hey, we got to go every day. And I got a family to take care of. I got a wife to provide for. I got children that need to be taken care of. And I got to get up and I got to go take my son this morning to 7th grade middle school football practice and got to leave at 5:40 and get him there by 6. And then I got to get back home and make sure my 8th grade football player is up and running so that I can take him to school and get him ready to go. Right. And then I got to head in because I got to catch up on what I need to before the day starts for my work. And I got to do what I got to do and get.
Well, I just see a lot of competition in that, compete against that natural instinct to get back in bed or whatever.
Yes.
No, compete.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good. Thank you.
So, Drew, do you consider yourself successful?
Yes, I do.
You answered that really quick. I like that. Confidence. So what is the definition of success to you?
For me, is finding your place that God wants you to be in God's will, and doing it. It would be, I think, the most simple way to define it. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Doesn't matter what kind of money you're making. It's just whatever God has put out for you to do it. And I believe if you're doing it with the gifts that he's given you and you're using the gifts, the Bible tells us that he's going to continue to fill us back up again. And so that's a challenge, finding your gifts, using your gifts. But the blessing or fulfillment that comes from it is clear, I think, to everybody when you know God is filling you up with the joy that only comes from him. So that would be how I would define success, because money just doesn't do it. It obviously is a part of the life that we live in. You gotta have some money to live, but it's not a necessity by any means, and so I can't define success by that alone.
Yeah,
the definition of success is entirely subjective.
Yeah,
that's the purpose for the question. So, a follow up to that is, do you consider yourself a leader?
Yes.
That's good. So tell me, what does it mean to be a leader?
So a leader, man, that's definitely a little more challenging, I guess, because I haven't spent as much time probably on that. But to be a leader would be, I go off of servant leadership probably is the model that I follow, because it's a biblical model on how Jesus walked and how he did things. Jesus didn't spend a whole lot of time directing people to go do things and say, go do it. He just walked, said, follow me. And then Paul took that model and said, follow me as I follow Christ. And that's just kind of the approach to leadership. So I think to kind of tie in what you said earlier, as far as what kind of a leader am I? I'm trying to carry a full caseload at work as far as my leadership at work. And I'm trying to show you, like, this is the way you can do things. You can fill up this caseload. You can help these many patients. This is how you can help all of these children's lives in the end. This is how you can go do that. We'll watch as I do that. When I'm teaching, I've had a lot of different teachers at Calvary that have come in and helped me teach, and then they've gone off and done their thing, and I let them see me teach and then go, hey, learn off of that. And now do what you are gifted to do. Don't just teach like Drew. Teach like God has given you the gift to do, and then go use it. And that's how we try to do things. And when I'm coaching, I get out there with the kids. And so
I've witnessed it.
So I will run around with them kids, and I can still move pretty well. It's just my knee hurts a little bit afterwards now. And it didn't really start doing that until about a year ago. And I hate it, because I'm just like, man, I really wanted to push my oldest son to have to be fast for a lot longer. But he's probably at the point where he can beat me, and that's why I haven't raced him recently. So.
That is really powerful humility right there. That's amazing. When he hears this, he's going to be very excited.
He knows it, though, because it wasn't just a couple of years ago that he and I would get up real early in the morning and train together to get him ready for football season. It was his first real football season. I wanted to prepare him physically and mentally to push through things and to work through things. And because of that, he really excelled in his physical ability that next season. And we were both in a real good state. And then the last couple of years, I haven't been able to do it as much because I'm too wound up and dropping people off and getting here and getting there. And obviously, I'm a physical therapist, so I'm still working out with my kids and stuff, but I don't have my own specific routine anymore like I'd like to have, and I'm just not what I was. And he definitely is more than what he was now. So.
Yeah, he's on the XL.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
So I'm going to translate all the things that you said about being a leader, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me if what I'm saying is what you meant.
Okay.
What it sounds like you meant is that your definition of leadership is that you create other leaders through empowering them.
Okay.
And then you encourage them to develop autonomy and influence of their own.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that.
So that is what a leader is charged with doing.
Okay.
So good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I don't like to be much of a micromanager. I never liked it when I was the employee in that position. I always felt like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Just let me do what I'm doing. And then when I need to do more, let me know. Kind of the situation, or if I'm not doing what I should be doing, let me know. And that's kind of how I like to do things with my own staff and things. It's like, hey, this is what we got to do. And you're a professional, go do it, and I'll help you get better at it if we need to. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, you got to do this today, you got to do this today. Like, no, because then my job is just to tell you what to do, and that's silly.
And they don't have ownership. They don't have any ownership of their behavior or activities or the results. And you used an interesting term when you talked about what you didn't want. So the opposite of leadership is management.
Gotcha.
Management is just the maintenance of the status quo.
Okay.
It is not the creation or growth.
Okay.
Leadership is creation and growth.
Okay.
It can be no other way.
Okay.
So I love that you use that as the thing I don't want to be is a manager. You said micromanager, but truthfully, the translation of what you said was just really management.
Okay.
So good job. So you've done a lot of stuff in your life. You've been a lot of places, seen a lot of things, been exposed to some very interesting experiences, and you're at a place of achievement right now in your professional life and your home life. Married 16 years, got 4 beautiful kids, a lot of things going for you. What's next? Do you have any dreams, visions? Where are you headed, man? What's coming?
Well, that would be probably the challenge right now is I think I achieved too quickly everything that I really wanted to achieve.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
And I hate that because I want to do more.
Okay.
But I don't know what it is that I need to do next is kind of the challenge other than with my own direct company. I want to try to help grow it because that's what we need to be doing right now. So that is my current probably regular mission on my head is I need to go find some more physical therapists and I need to help teach them how to do this job at 212 therapy and hopefully grow that into more and more. So that is a goal for me right now, obviously. And then I guess I'm always looking at things as far as trying to, again, find I'm growing a teacher right now at Calvary into learning how to teach on a consistent basis with me. So those things are going on. And I'm trying to help my kids grow into godly men and women. So that is obviously a major goal for me. But I feel like I've already gotten the things as far as any of the physical things that you would want in life, I'm happy with. I don't want any bigger of a home or any bigger or flashier of a car. I drive a Chevy Cruze and it does what it needs to do. And my kids think it's just a silly, junky ride. And I'm like, well, it's going to be yours one day. don't rip it too much. But it does what it needs to do. And I'm fine with that. And I don't want to put extra burden on myself that doesn't need to, trying to go chase boats and different things. And that's just not even on my agenda. But taking care of my family and making sure they have what they need is always on my agenda. But you go through school and you always have like, this is what I'm trying to get to. This is where I'm trying to get to. This is where I'm trying to get to. This is a degree I'm trying to get to. And you graduate and it's like,
what do I do now?
What do I do now? And so I have things that I want to do, but I mean, like, so I outlined it, but I don't really have an aspiration of owning my own business at this point. I don't think the Lord has put that on my heart to do that right now. Now how I manage things, I feel like I'm running the entire physical therapy department like I should be. But owning my own thing right now, God hasn't said this is what I wanted to do. I really thought about it a lot during COVID. I was like, hey, is this something that I need to be pursuing? And
Right.
again, all doors shut in that area. Like there was nothing that ever opened up. So so that's not really, I think, at the forefront for me right now. There you go, man.
Well, let me follow up with this because I'll bet there's a lot of gas in that tank.
Yes.
So what do you want your legacy to be? Have you thought of this? What is it that will be Drew Wallace's mark on the world when he's no longer here?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is hopefully Christ is the answer. Hopefully everybody that I interact with sees Christ in the process. I mean, that's my number one thing. And even if my name achieves nothing, I feel like that it's everything if they see Christ in it. So if the people that I'm teaching every Sunday see that, the kids that I'm teaching at Awanas every Wednesday night see that, if the kids that I coach see that, because I do include that into how I coach. I don't just simply coach the game, I coach character. And then I'm pulling in the Bible because you can't coach character without the Bible, at least in my book.
Right.
And obviously, hopefully, I'm able to take care of my wife until the very day that I die, and raise my children to be able to do the same one day if that's what God has on their heart. So I'm going to be a happy grandpa hopefully one day, just watching my boys play baseball. And if I get the chance to coach them, like one of my close friends, Bob Killen, who's a retired coach who can't seem to stop coaching because he's coaching his grandkids now. And we coached together last season, and I love him to death. And every time I see him, it's a warm hug. But that's goals that I have, are just to still be available to the next generation, I guess, would be my legacy. That hopefully, if God gives me those years, I can help be a part of my grandkids' life too.
So what I hear you saying is that you're living as a ministry.
Yeah. You're
living as a disciple who creates disciples, who wants to.
That's the goal.
So I would then assume that you're potentially wanting to grow that ministry.
Yes.
To cause it to expand.
Yes.
So there may be hope there. We reach these points, like you said, about graduation, or you got to this point of leadership. And sometimes we get to a plane and we look around and we're like, oops. It was fun getting here. I didn't know I was going to be looking up when I got here.
Yeah.
What's next?
Right.
So that may be a big part of what's next. I mean, who knows, right? But that's exciting, how fast you got to this level. And I would bet that you've already created an enormous legacy with your ministry and touching lives and imparting that into people. A desire for Christ and a desire to be disciples and leaders in that regard.
Yes, that's the hope. That's the hope.
So you work a lot with youth, your own kids, other kids, and then at church, and then maybe even some on the youth camp side. And I too am on the board of a Christian youth camp, and so every summer, these kids, and some we recognize, some we don't, but we get them for these little short snippets. You can call it a week or a season, and then I might not see that kid much after that because we just don't run in similar circles. So you have them for a moment. And what is it that you want them to what are some of the things you want them to know, especially some of the examples, and you've given it a couple of times this afternoon, which is, sometimes God will close doors. Sometimes he will say no.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's going to be failure.
Yeah.
And so in those experiences, what would you like for them to be processing so that they can make the most of what they think is a setback, but really it's not?
Oh, man. I mean, it depends on what age. I work with so many different ages, is the reality and all that. So if I work, I'm working with the youngest of young sometimes, and
Babies.
and they are constantly falling as they're trying to learn to just get up, and obviously instilling that character of we got to keep getting up, we got to keep going, and that's always a challenge. And then as I get into the older population, you can see sometimes that it hasn't stuck yet with this kid, and I'm dealing with a 13-year-old, and I see the potential. That's probably one of the things that I think other people have pointed out to me is I see things that some people don't really see. And when I'm coaching a team, I look at my roster and I know what my max potential is. And some people don't have any idea what that is, but I know very clearly but most of the roster has no idea what that is.
Right.
And a lot of the first couple practices are me hitting balls with the baseball practice to kids and seeing stuff and going, you have more, and them going,
Yeah.
And so I want to help them learn that there's more, and you're capable of more, and hopefully tie that in with, if you can't access it out of your own effort, ask God to help you with it, because God will help you access it and will get you there, and maybe not on your own strength, but with his strength. We can get there.
Right.
So,
well, you mentioned that, how definitely God strengthened you, and then also brought people into your life, your dad and other folks that say, well, wait, if not for those people participating as well. And so I see this working with a lot of those teens is it's hard for them to allow for that assistance because they seem to be afraid they're going to be perceived as they're weak and they'll never be. And like that's not the case at all. It's completely opposite of that. You will be. And so and I'll find other people. I said, why don't you go over there and while we're walking to dinner, go walk with Mr. So-and-so, but when you get over there, ask him this and see what he says. And they have a conversation all the way up that trail. And like, there's that moment. And I hope that young person will never forget that. They'll remember that one moment like at camp, that one moment that I spent, 5 minutes walking down a trail with this one guy. And that perspective changed my life, So who knew a sport could do that?
Oh, yeah.
It's just a silly sport. Hit the ball, touch them all. But there's so much more to learn.
No, there's just so many more opportunities than that. And that's why coaching is always an important thing to me. And I've worked with other coaches in the past, and you can see like their goal is to win or their goal is to do this. And hey, I'm here to win. If we're playing, we're here to win.
Yeah.
But we're much more than that, though. Much more than that. And again, I'm growing, hopefully, men and women to eventually become people that got to function in society. They got to be husbands and wives. And if that's not part of the goal, then really what am I trying to do? Just get a trophy for one good season.
Right.
And to be honest, I haven't won that many first places. I've had to say that in the past. I've had people come out and say, oh, you all do is win. And I'm like, well, I don't have a lot of trophies if that's the case. Right. So I like to win and I want to win. Yeah. But sometimes I think that's not God's plan. Sometimes it's God's plan to check me in the middle of the season and be like, what are you trying to do right now? What are you trying to do? So
something fascinating. One of the greatest coaches of all time, John Wooden, a quote that I'm paraphrasing. Okay. So I'm not going to quote it exactly. Right. So if anybody out there hears me, you don't have to correct me. I know I said it wrong, but something that he said was, I can't learn or teach anything on a win.
Yes.
I get you on that.
So absolutely. Every time you experience a loss, whether it be in sports or in life, that's the best opportunity you can be given.
Yeah.
Because it's a learning moment, right? Whether it be large or small. And that's what it's all about. So in order for us to grow, we must experience losses.
Losses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a bigger trophy coming.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I absolutely agree with that. We had our 7-year-old all-star team, and man, we came in ready to go back. That was a coach pitch year. That was a good time. We had a great squad that year and great families. And we came in, and I knew the format. It was one of those all-day Saturday tournaments. We're going to Jasper and the Jasper Slugfest, and we're going to go play. And we're going to play a couple games, get in the pool play, get that done, get seated, and in the afternoon, we're playing the actual elimination tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at the whole format as a coach. I quickly go, like, we're here to win immediately, as fast as we can. We want to get these games done. And as far as the pool play games, if we can get them done in run rules, we're going to get them done in run rules. We're here to go. And so I got a plan going into it and ready to go. And so we excelled at the plan very well. First couple games we came in, then the other team was sleeping, and we were just hitting and going. And they're like, they were blown away by our intensity. And like, we're not here to just play this game. We're here to play this afternoon. And so we blow through that, and it's hot. So we want to get in the shade anyways. So we're getting it done. And then we came on the game in the afternoon where we face a team who is solid. And we start getting down, and they're not used to that.
Yes.
And the energy just plummets in the dugout. And I'm like, guys, we're okay. They scored a couple runs. Just because nobody else did doesn't mean that you can't.
The game's not over.
Yeah, you've got a whole game to play here.
Right.
But the fact that they just didn't have anything to draw from. There was just nothing there. And as much as I wanted to teach them how to do that, like, you really can't teach that. That's got to be experience.
Right.
Like, you got to be down in life, and you got to choose to fight and get through it and excel at some point to know, like, okay, like, I can keep going.
Right.
And I'm not done yet. But teams who haven't experienced like a come from behind win, man, they're going to struggle when they're behind.
Isn't that the truth?
Right. So that's the same thing in life. So if you've never tried to fight for anything in life and excel and win on the other side, then you probably just feel like you're going to lose as soon as it starts going the wrong way.
Very true.
Yep.
Very true. A morale loss is the biggest loss to experience.
Right.
So we're drawn to a close.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure having you with us. I've got two more questions that I always ask every guest that comes on the show. Chuck, have you got anything you'd like to ask?
More than a compliment. Just thank you, man. I mean, great message, and you're making it happen. Just in the lives of others.
Well, thank you.
I mean, obviously most important is Christy and the family, but then the team of people that you're now building, at your clinic, that's amazing. And they're getting to do what they love to do, and you're providing that opportunity. And of course, we're always partial to those who solicit our skill. That's a humbling thing. When that phone rings and a patient comes in or parents come in, and it is for me, I'm sure it is for you guys too, wow, well, now I want to do my absolute best, and you seem to have embraced that well. So I think that's leadership. So thank you. Good messages today.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the final two questions, the first one I'll ask you of the two is, if a young person sees this episode and they're inspired by you and would like to be somewhat like you and follow in your footsteps, what advice might you give them?
Well, what advice? Number one is find the Lord in your life. Even when I was down, the Lord's always there for you. Jesus is very real. He died on the cross for you, and he is ready to be the Lord of your life. That is absolutely 100% a reason that drives me every day, even when I'm not at my best, is Christ is there for me, and his Holy Spirit is constantly guiding me. So that's number one. And number two is find somebody in your life to help encourage you and guide you. And like I said, my dad helped guide me most of my childhood. And then I had great professors at times in school that helped guide me. And I had different individuals to help guide me. And I got a wife who's always checking me.
She'll always guide you.
Make sure
you're doing what
I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Make sure that I know I'm not doing what I'm supposed to.
You don't have to remind me every 6 months. I know you want me to do it.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Keep going.
Yeah. So those are kind of probably the biggest things that I would say.
Okay.
Because it's lonely if you're on your own. That's for sure. So Christ can be there for you always.
Mhm.
And find somebody who can be here physically for you as well. Hopefully somebody that follows Christ can help guide you and direct you in the right way.
That's a great message.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. So my last question is always this, okay? If you could go back in time, let's say to your about to graduate high school self,
Okay.
getting ready for college, and you could whisper in your own ear some advice, some profound nuggets of wisdom that could impact your life. But that's all you can do is whisper and hope to be heard. What might you say to your younger self?
I would say listen to your mom.
Listen to your mom. That's the first one of those we've had.
Right.
That's great.
Right.
Listen to your mom. Now, the story off that is at the time I was in a relationship that I probably didn't need to be in.
Mm.
And I was probably at a distraught point as well of what I needed to do because I felt like that was the right relationship. This is before my wife, and she knows the story as well. And my mom one time we're sitting at the kitchen table together, and she just said, "Drew, have you prayed about this?" It's amazing how simple that is.
Mm.
Have you prayed about it? And no, I hadn't, because that had gone. And, some people think that, you stop certain areas of your life or whatever because of different challenges, but usually your prayer life is one of the things that goes the fastest, and you don't really realize it always.
Subtle.
And then here you are on this road, and you haven't even activated the greatest thing you have, which is your prayer line to God. And luckily I did listen to my mom.
Yeah. Good job, Mom.
And that was the right decision. And here I am today with my beautiful wife and my children, and what I believe is a successful life because I brought that back in.
So I'm going to read between the lines a little bit, and I'm going to help you out just a little bit at home.
All right.
Okay? So what I hear him saying is that his wife is the embodiment of the answer of his prayer.
Yeah. Ooh.
I would
What?
definitely agree with that wholeheartedly.
Like,
So,
did you just hear what just happened for you?
Yes.
I mean, we didn't know we were, building stronger marriages on the show. Well, that's beautiful.
We had to change our format a little.
Yeah,
Knowing
yeah.
that we're in that.
Yeah, he didn't pay us before the show.
there you go.
But yes, I mean, she said, pray about it. You did, and prayers are answered. Look at that.
And here you are with a
Here
beautiful
you are.
family.
That's right. That's right. Doing good things.
Successful career, beautiful family, living the American dream
There you go.
as a witness for Christ. That's beautiful.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, told you earlier on in the show that we'd give you a chance for a shameless plug. So we love to find people and help people pursue careers and find employment and things like that.
Yeah.
We're big on that. And we also love to help you if we can. So you are hiring.
Absolutely.
If you would tell the audience what you're looking for, what type of career paths that you're offering, what type of jobs, and how they would pursue that.
Yeah. So again, I'm the director of physical therapy for 212 Therapy in Beaumont, Texas. And right now I'm looking for a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant in the Beaumont area to be able to cover in-home treatments and with pediatric population. And also I need one kind of down in the mid-county area as well, covering the regions down in Nederland, Port Neches, Port Arthur, Groves, all of that. So somebody that can help cover all those kids. There's a lot of children in this area that need help.
Okay.
Lots of children, and not everybody's able to come to the clinic where I provide the majority of my caseload treatments, and that's where we need to be able to go to them and try to take care of them. So if you guys are interested at all, absolutely get on the 212 Therapy website, and our contact information is all there. And I'd love to get to know you. We also have an Indeed ad out there as well as far as finding employment. And if you're looking for a place to find Christ, Calvary Baptist is also another option for you guys, as well as I know there's plenty of other Bible believing churches. But if you still haven't found one, that's here in Beaumont and in Lumberton as well.
So those positions that you're offering, what are the credentials required to be a physical therapist assistant or to be a physical therapist? What do they need to have?
So as far as credentials, all that's needed really is a physical therapy degree from an accredited college for a physical therapist, and then as well as for the physical therapist assistant, we do need to have the associate's degree in physical therapy assistant.
Okay.
And that's really from accredited colleges and a current license in the state of Texas.
That's it. That's all we need to know.
Yep.
Well, guys out there, we sure appreciate our audience. We appreciate the opportunity to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today we've had with us Dr.
Drew Wallace.
Thank you guys very much. Y'all have a great